this little book, which is newly repackaged now, called Spectacular Sins and Their Global Purpose in the Glory of Christ, may be one of the more controversial and yet, in my mind, practical books that I've written. And what makes it both controversial and practical is because I think it's crucial that in order to be secure and content and happy and free and solid and unshakable in the Christian life, we need confidence that God is sovereign over what happens to us. And a lot of things that happen to us are sin. That is, the people that do them to us are sinning against us. They slander us or criticize us in ways they shouldn't, or abuse us in other ways when we're little children. Like, what about abuse in a person's background when they were a child? What is God's sovereignty over sins? Not just the weather or your vocation, but sovereign over sin. So that's what this is about. This is about God's sovereignty and use of sins in the world. And the key one, just so you have a flavor of what's in here, is the death of Jesus. There isn't a greater sin in all the universe than the murder of the Son of God. And according to Acts chapter 4, verse 27, Herod and Pontius Pilate and the peoples of Israel and the Gentiles were gathered together to do what your hand and your plan had predestined to take place. So God has written a script, as it were, in the Old Testament for the suffering and the death of his Son, and yet Herod and Pilate and the Gentiles and those who cried out, "Crucify him," were all sinning. So God can somehow do what Genesis 50:20 says he does. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. So I take 6 or 7 samples of spectacular sins in the Bible and wrestle from the text with God's sovereignty in and over those sins for the good of his people, so that you might find help here, not just for whether God is sovereign over the, say, disease in your life, but over the sins against you or that you perhaps have committed in the past. And in that sense, take your level of confidence in God's love for you a deeper level.